This is Eat, Sleep, Invest, the marketing podcast for real estate investors to get more deals. Hey, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Eat, Sleep, and Invest. I'm your host, Brian Driscoll, and I'm here with Jesus Toledo. What's going on, man?
Everything good, man. Thank you for having me. Happy to share this with you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So Jesus has some background in marketing. You have some background in e-commerce, list building. Why don't you tell everybody what you do?
Well, what I do, right now we have a wholesale operation back here in Miami. We invest in 3 markets, 2 virtually, 1 local. And we, very early on, we learned that we're really good at lead gen and data processing. And actually, Gary Harper, have you ever worked with him?
I haven't worked with him personally, but I know him.
Yeah, so he helped many of the professional real estate investors in the country. And he was the one that came in and said, hey, you guys are awesome at lead gen and data. Never seen this before. Why don't you do this as a business? He forced us to open this as a business 3-4 years ago and started doing data and lead gen for other clients.
That's pretty cool. So you're originally an investor, then came into the data, probably just doing the same stuff you were doing for yourself, right?
Exactly. Like we just like the reason behind I have an engineer background, so I study electrical engineer, and when I got into real estate, I was looking at all the videos in YouTube, what list to pull and all of that. And I look at it, if I pull the data from where everybody else is pulling, I'm going to get at max the results that everybody else is getting, right? And we wanted an edge. So we went to the basics, got the raw data from the counties and started processing in a way that was unique because we didn't know better. We're just trying to figure it out, and ended up happening that we were getting opportunities in front of us that nobody else was getting.
That's got to be a pain too, because every single county is different.
Well, yeah, we were at that time we were 2-3 counties, so it was easier, right?
Yeah.
and it was a lot of me doing the work, and so I learned a lot through that process. And yes, it's definitely difficult. But what you need to understand is every time that you pull a list, every time that you apply a filter, you are missing opportunities. Just because the data is never perfect. It never will be perfect, and there's a lot of unformatted data points, right? So if you're applying a filter to a living area, what happens with the properties that don't have a living area? They just get lost. They don't fill in any box when you apply a filter, right? Like the best example that I can give is the unknown equity. Everybody knows the unknown equity list, right? When you pull the equity, there's so many properties that you don't know how much equity they have, that the data created a category that's unknown. But go try and buy an unknown list for all the other filters that you apply. They're not available. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So all of those, and sometimes it's a 5%, sometimes it's a 2%, but ends up adding like a 20-40%, depending on your market. It can be a 20-40% of data that has something that is unformatted, that if you apply a filter, you would miss it.
And if you don't, like if you can tap into those extra people too, that's probably the difference of them getting your mailer versus 20 people mailers.
100%. So let me tell you the story. Like our second deal that we did off market, we started off doing deals from the MLS. Like when we got into this, we hired a mentor. The first mentor was doing deals from the MLS, so we learned that. We did 3-5 deals right off the bat. We found a little hack to getting the deals from MLS, but the margins were really small, right? So we then jumped to off market. We realized off market there were larger profits, and we had no idea what we're doing, right? We literally, this was 3 months in, and we landed. Our second deal off market was the deal that was almost 6 figures. It was 90 something K that we made a spread. I'm not saying that for bragging. Is we were the only ones talking to this seller, and we had no idea what we're doing. And the seller had all the niche list points. It was mortgage was behind, divorce, so you name it. It should have been on everybody's list, but it was on anybody's list. We were the only ones talking to him, and it was the only way how we pulled that deal off. Because like literally we didn't know how to solve any of the problems that he was going through. We figured it out. We learned. Fortunately, nobody else was calling him, because if not, we're going to have lost that deal.
Yeah, so what are you saying? So people are downloading lists and they put additional filters on their list, like divorce, foreclosed, whatever it is. And then what that's doing, that's also segmenting out other properties that just are out there somewhere that go on no list?
No. So the niche lists are great, right? But every time when you go, like investors, typically they go and let's say they go 20 stores and they start pulling I want to only 3 bedrooms or only built from this year, last sale date, at least 5 years of ownership, price value, you name it. Any filters you apply to the property characteristics are eliminating properties from your list.
Right.
Does it make sense? Because you don't want to buy properties that were bought in the last 2 years. They're very unlikely to sell at a discount, right? Oh, depending on your exit strategies, if you're doing creative, maybe you can consider that. But depending on what you do with the data. But the point is, every time that you try to filter so you don't overspend on data, you're missing some little opportunities, right? We call that in our service, we call that the hidden gems, right? Because literally very few people have access to it. And when you market to them, it's like fishing with dynamite. It's just getting better responses. Like you said, it's the only postcard, maybe 2 postcards they're getting. You're the only one that they're talking to, right? It's not hundreds of thousands in every market, but every market has a few of those.
Right.
And that's one part of what we do when and at that time we had no idea what we were doing, right? Like I now can look back and say I know exactly what we did. Let's replicate it, and that's what we do. But at that time we were just pulling raw data, applying minimal filters to it, and identifying what were the people that were more likely to sell at a discount. And that's how we based and started this business. This was an algorithm that we created 4 years ago that was evolving over time. Now we have super advanced analytics that helps us predict who's going to be more likely to sell, when are they more likely to sell, right? Because there's a lot of things from the time that distress happens. Let's talk about foreclosure, for example. From the time that it happens to the time that they sell, there's a big gap depending on the market that you're in. So understanding those variables is not my engineer team does that. I don't know that anymore,
Yeah.
to be honest.
That's interesting. Yeah, I want to talk about the analytics, but first, even more important too, like everyone's starting out. Like you started out, you just jumped in a pool and try to figure it out. Like, so everyone, if you're listening, you're trying to get your first deals, like go out there and do something, even if it's not perfect. If you do
A
it enough,
hundred
you're
percent.
gonna get a deal somewhere.
100%. And if you're starting out, I don't know what your audience breakdown is, but if you're a professional real estate investor, you know this already. But if you're not, you're starting out, I would recommend go after the pre-foreclosure list. Be an expert of your market. Understand where is the first time that the foreclosure record gets filed somewhere. It could be a publication in a, in a newspaper. It could be the list pendants, whatever that is in your market. Find where that first point is and go super aggressive with them. The foreclosure distress indicator is by far the best performing indicator that you can get anywhere.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, because then you're first one in. Um,
Yeah, like if you're in a competitive market, if you're not first, you're last. So you have no chance of getting them, right?
right.
And so that's really, really important.
So now we're talking about data points. So okay, so someone like you're talking about, someone goes into foreclosure, and then multiple things. Give some examples, like different things that have to happen normally, or you see that before they're actually purchasing, like how you can build this list and target effectively, or I guess efficiently.
So yeah, efficiently and effectively, I think both ways are super important. Like from somebody starting out, or if you are a
Uh,
professional real
Like
estate.
seasoned, like an experienced investor.
So it's somebody seasoned. Well, we offer this as a service as well. Like we help the professional guys. They don't want to go through the process of finding where the foreclosures are, how to mine it, and skip trace it. We help with them going through that process, right? But if you want to do it on your own, have a VA, figure it out where it is. The first thing that you have to do is find out if you are judicial or non-judicial state, right? Because that will change the regulations, and then identify where is the first point that it becomes a public record. Like I said, it could be a newspaper publication or it could be a list pendants. Most of the cases are either of those two. Once you identify that, skip trace it, and that same day you need to start your marketing with them. Either cold calling, texting, Facebook messages, whatever it is that you can do to get a hold of them, do it.
Yeah, I remember way back in the day too. I used to go. I'm in Allegheny County in Pennsylvania. I figured out. I was like, Allegheny County has it on their website. So we just went in, copied, paste. It was a pain.
It is. So the harder it is, the better it is because less people are doing it, right?
Yeah.
And like some markets, it's very easy. You can copy, download, build a bot, whatever. You can figure out ways. But most of the markets with the foreclosure process, especially, is a PDF file that is very hard to automate how to pull it off. So you need to manually open PDF and start searching where's the owner's information, if it's a foreclosure case or not, and then start the process, right? So it is a lot of work, but it definitely pays off.
Yeah, and you handle this for people, right?
Yeah, if we do this for people, yeah, we do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do it.
So people can either pay by sweat or pay by money. Like they can either put in your grunt work or
Exactly.
just give you the
Yeah,
cash and you handle it for them. Give them a nice file. They send it to the mail house and they're done.
yeah. So most of our clients are professional real estate investors. They've been in the business for a while. They're doing anywhere 50 plus deals a year, typically, right? We work with some of the biggest ones. We're very fortunate, and they don't want to deal with it. Like the the lesson that I took from this first few years of real estate investing is when we got into the business, we thought this was a marketing business, right? We thought that we would win if we had the best data and the best lead gen. But the truth is, as a real estate investor, the most successful real estate investors, they focus on sales. And if they have a sales organization, they can outsource everything, right? So a lot of these big investors, they have really good processes. They could do this on their own, but they prefer to pay an expert, a company who has dozens of engineers dedicated to identifying who are the properties more likely to sell. The foreclosure is just one little factor, right? But predicting and consistently being able to identify who is more likely to sell at a discount. And not only that, understanding the timings of that cycle. So when you target to them, you don't not targeting if you pull a list, whatever list, most people do, they target every 30 days. And then after 3, 4 months, they recycle and pull the new list and target for 3, 4 months, 6 months, whatever that is. What we do is we take the list, we understand the cycles that they're in, and we build a marketing cadence for them to help them execute. So some properties will be in a 30-day cycle. Some properties will going to be in a 90-day cycle. And depending on your market, it might be in a 120-day cycle. Because there is a big difference from, like New York is a market that takes forever from contract to close. The cycle, the entire cycle is different, right? So adjusting to those little things based on the market and the type of the list that you're targeting is extremely important.
Now, what's an example on timing? Say like pre-foreclosure versus divorce, or like anything, or someone who just got you can find out who got summons on their properties, things like that. Like, what are the difference?
Well, the difference is the urgency, right? I mean, life happens when life happens. And everybody has a different situation, but on averages, a foreclosure list will close at a discount, will sell a discount 5 to 7 times more than any other niche list possible, right? So our job is to predict because the foreclosure list is not huge. So our job, what we do really well is we predict based on divorce distress, based on different other data points to predict other properties that behave the similar to the foreclosure list. That we can say with confidence that they are in the highest percentile of likely to sell at a discount. And when you identify that top of the tier of your data, that's where the magic starts, right? For example, that part of the list, we would tell you to call them 3 times in a day for 10 days in a row and don't stop, right? Because they are that important. So understanding where they are in their journey and how to actually talk to them and market to them, it's the game changer there.
Yeah, and
The
that,
combination of both.
yeah, that's
So a
interesting to
divorce
bring up.
record by itself, yes, it's a good indicator. Like when you ask, like a divorce, it's a great indicator. But they don't have a deadline to sell. A foreclosure, they either sell, they're going to lose their house. Well, they have 3 options: they pay the mortgage, they sell, or they lose their house. There's no other option, right? The divorce, there's a lot of things that happen there.
Right. Now, like, say for example, multiple. That's called list stacking, right? Like,
Yeah,
find someone's a divorce, pre-foreclosure, whatever. Um, Obviously, the list gets smaller. You
yeah,
do that.
100%.
Um,
So go ahead. Sorry.
no, just say, what do you recommend? Like, how focused do you recommend people getting?
Yes. So if you're doing stacking on your own, it's very tricky because most stacking softwares, they only allow you to do a count of lists that they are in, right? I don't know if there's any stacking software that allows you to be more strategical about that because this is one thing that we learned probably a couple years ago that different distresses have different weights, and even in different markets too. Like, I'll give you an example. Here in Miami, a tax delinquent is a high indicative that somebody will sell at a discount. But in another market, the absentee owner might be a higher indicative that they will sell at a discount. And adjusting those weights to the distress itself is very important too. But I don't know if there's any tool. So if you are doing stacking on your own, I would say anything with two, three distresses or more, you could put them in different sequence. I would separate them in three groups, right? Depending on the size of the market, depending on the amount of data that you have, I would say the people that have three lists, right? Put them on a more aggressive campaign. The people who are in two lists, put in a less aggressive campaign where you're spending less marketing dollars to them. And the rest, you still target them, right? But just not as frequently.
Makes sense. Now you were talking about too certain lists you'd recommend call 3 times a day, texting, all that kind of stuff. Like obviously the ones that are more likely to sell. Um, Number one, are you're able to get the data too for the phone numbers for the people's owners? Are you skip tracing or what do you do there?
Yeah, so we run what we like to call an open system. Uh, Clients come to us for the data, the high level data that we process, but also the advice on how to execute on their marketing, right? Because those two things they go hand in hand. Like I could give you the best list if you're not executing with the right tools, with the right message, with everything, you're not going to get as good as results. So we do offer skip tracing as a service, but if you want to take our list and skip trace on your own, that's okay too.
Yeah, that's what I like about your service too, because you're just providing the data and advice. You're not doing it for them. Like people can
We're not
just
doing it for
implement.
them, yeah.
Yeah, they can implement however they want. It's like here's
They can implement on however they want, exactly. And one thing that we say to our clients is we have hundreds of clients and we learn from them, right? So we work hand in hand with our clients to constantly learn what's working, what is the frequencies that are working, and constantly improve based on that. We used to do texting for other investors until last year was like a white glove service. And what we did, we had the full process of texting, processing the leads, and qualifying the leads. So what we did, since we had the full control of the not the entire sales cycle, but at least half of it, we were able to understand how often to target. We tested everything. We tested from texting once a day to texting multiple times a day to every 3 weeks, right? Depending on the level of motivations. And that's where we learned the most, right? Because before we thought, oh, we know this data, let's only target this part. But what happens is the properties that you can predict are likely to sell at a discount is very small, right? So we typically separate our data in 3 tiers. We have a super high likely to sell at a discount, a medium likely to sell at a discount, and a better than average chances to selling at a discount, right? And what happens is if you have the budget, you could target literally everybody on that part. It's just how frequently you do, so you're not overspending your marketing dollars.
yeah, 'cause it can get expensive, especially like that's nice. What you're doing is because you're saying, okay, this third spend a bulk of your money, and this third spend the least, but you still don't want to not send to them.
Yeah.
So you're able to instead of sending equally to everybody and just having all that waste on postage, printing, all that kind of stuff.
Exactly, exactly. And also the fact that you target who you really want to buy, right? We do a process that we call a reverse buy box that we take all the deals that you've done in the last 2 years and we reverse engineer your deals plus the deals that are happening in your market and help you identify what will be your ideal buy box. Because a lot of people don't do this exercise. This is one takeaway that I'll recommend everybody who's listening. Go look back at the last 2 years of deals that you've done and identify what zip codes they were in, what living area, bedrooms, year built, last sale date. Understand those components, but every time that you're pulling a list, don't do it based on what you think is your buy box. Do it based on what you're getting the most revenue, right? Our process is actually identify the 80-20, right? We're trying to identify what are the 20% of the properties that gave you the 80% of revenue, what do they have in common? And then we go deep on those, right? We're not excluding everything else, but we're prioritizing. I remember like one of the very first times that we did this, we did it for a really large operator, like hundreds and hundreds of deals a year. And we asked them, can you rank your zip codes based on what you think is the best zip codes in your market? They ranked it. We say, okay, let us look our analysis and we'll present a report for you, right? What we learned from that is they really didn't know. They thought a lot of zip codes were really good, but they were not. And what we learned is less than 15% of the revenue, the entire, I mean, sorry, less than, more than 80%, 85% was, 85% of the revenue for their company came from 15% of the zip codes in their market. It was 11 zip codes, right, in a large market. They gave them 85% of their revenue. So if they cut off all the other marketing, everything out, and only focus on that 15% of zip codes, they would have gotten 85% of the results, regardless of what they did.
That's crazy too, because then you can scale up like intelligently in those areas.
Exactly. Exactly. And you go super targeted, super niche. And that's one of the things that we help. Like, we're not just, hey, come here, we'll give you a list, go, you're on your own. We help you understand your market, we help you understand your business. We work together building that buy box. And then we identify who is more likely to sell at a discount. We throw in there the hidden gems, right? All the other lists that everybody else is missing, we put them with the properties that are more likely to sell at a discount. And then we also assist you. We don't do it for you, but we assist you with how to target to them. And this is always learning. Every market, we don't have all the answers. That's the beauty of it. We work kind of in a partnership where the more information you give us, the better we can serve you, right? Because once we start getting feedback 3 months in, we can look at all your leads. We can reverse engineer what part of the list is performing better. Let's look what we're doing and constantly improve.
Yeah, that's pretty. We do that a lot on the digital side. Same thing.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
didn't even think you could do that on your side because say we're running paid ads, we can track after a couple months, be like, okay, all this is waste. Let's quit doing that and let's put money here. So the same thing on your side. Yeah, you put all your money to what's working effectively.
It's exactly like digital. And it's funny to me because I come from the online poker world. That was my very first business. I was hosting online poker. We represented a few like the larger brands back in Chile. I'm originally from Chile, and what I saw in that industry was the poker players 10, I don't know, 20 years ago were all dinosaurs, right? Elderly people, only the people who had money could play poker, not a lot of young guys. And over the years, the younger crowd started kicking in and the data started kicking in on poker. I don't know if you ever played poker, but I remember from playing one table live in a casino or whatever to playing 16 tables on a computer where everything was numbers, right? And only young kids were playing poker at that time because they were the only ones that adapted to the data changes and how data can change everything. Digital is super fast. You guys went from 0 to 100 in the amount of data that you can process and optimize. But in the real estate space, we're starting to be more professional about the data and understanding what's working, what's not working, and fine tuning based on that.
That's solid. What do you think's you think we're gonna start getting more foreclosures?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's already coming back. I mean, during COVID, most counties, most states were completely stopped. In other states, they were still filing them, but they couldn't foreclose on the property. So there's a lot of accumulation of foreclosure, and we're already seeing that. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, when do you think it will come back like it was before? Because I know it's still way down, I believe.
It's a difficult. I don't like to play predictions. Everything indicates a yes, but everything can change. It's out of our control. A lot of the things are out of our control, right? So it's really hard to predict, but the numbers say the yes.
Yeah. I'll ask you for another prediction. What do you think's coming up here, man?
I'm not a huge predictor fan, but I think if I had a gun to my head, I would say it's going to be a long time of adjusting. It's not going to be a dramatic drop. I think it's going to be something that's going to be adjusting over a couple of few years, maybe 3 4 years, where we're going to need to learn and go to the basics, right? So this is actually, I was a CG. You're a part of CG as well, right? Highly recommend the mastermind, by the way. They We were presenting on it, and if you go back to the fundamentals of real estate investing, you can survive on any type of market, right? There's two things should be successful in real estate. Well, first of all, focus on sales and figure out the rest. But if you buy deep enough, and if think about it, this is all sales. If you buy deep enough and if you sell to the highest paying buyer, you always have a business, regardless of where you are in the market.
That's right. Real estate's not going anywhere.
It's not going to. They're still going to have transactions, maybe a little bit less. Maybe it's going to take longer. Maybe you're going to have to adjust your strategies. But as long as you buy deep enough and you find the highest paying buyer, you have a business.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people talking too. They're like, "Hey, what do you think's going to happen with the market? And is it going to fish out?" Like, people are still getting divorced. People are still losing their jobs. Like that, some situations will change, but the life situations that someone doesn't have enough money to fix their house is going to pop up still, regardless of market.
And what do you think is going to happen to the market?
I think the house prices are going to go down. I think it's going to be good for investors. I think I was even just looking at even just the difference of like 2 to 3% interest is a crazy big difference on a mortgage. It's like it's gonna
Yeah.
force prices to go down because people buy on monthly payments. They don't buy on how much the house is worth. You know?
100%. No, the 100%. So that's why like it's very hard to predict, right? I mean, we're seeing this is not prediction anymore. Prices are going down. Days on market are going up. Those are data. Those are facts. But now, what's going to continue happening? We don't know, right? It could happen. What happens if it had another pandemic?
Right?
Then everything that we can predict can change, right? So at the end of the day, we're going to look at the trends. I remember this also, our coach Gary said, like when in time of crisis, you don't plan for a year, you don't plan for a quarter, you plan for a week, you plan for a couple of weeks. And you're constantly aware of what's happening around you. So you're constantly adjusting so you don't create a strategy and then it stops working, right? So be super aware of the surroundings. Every market is different. Some markets, the prices haven't gone down that much. The days on market are increasing in most markets, but the prices haven't gone down yet. So adjusting to your reality, to what you see, get a sense of what your market is happening. There's no knowledge better than your personal understanding of the market, as long as you look at the right things.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I forget what I was just gonna say. I was just gonna say something cool too, and I forget it.
You always say cool things, man.
Yeah,
I love the conversations that we have.
yeah, no. So, you know what I was gonna say? I talked with a lot of investors too, and a lot of the guys that are flipping are now going into wholesale. They're like, you know what? I don't want to hold them because we're getting stuck,
Going back.
especially in California, places like that. They're like, we got all our money tied up in this flip. We can't sell it, so we can't go get more deals. So a lot of flippers are transitioning to wholesale deals for now, just to see what happens. 'Cause they don't want to get stuck.
That's exactly what I was saying. Like they're seeing what's happening in their market. They probably had some flips. They're taking way longer to sell. They're needing to do price reductions. As long as you keep that eye open and understand what's happening, adjusting, and yes, the when the times to sell a property increases, what you want to do is shorten your cash conversion cycle, right? From the time you spend the marketing dollar to the time that you collect, you want to bring that lower. And the fastest way to get money in the bank is through a wholesale.
Right? Yeah. So hey, if somebody wants to reach out and have you do some information, get some data for them, help them out with all that kind of stuff, what's the best way to connect?
Absolutely. I'm Facebook, Instagram. The best way actually is going through our website, 8020rei.com. And if somebody comes in, they book a demo with us, they mention that they came from either your personal connection or your podcast, we will give them a 20% off in the onboarding fee and we'll treat them really well.
Nice. Yeah, appreciate it. So that's 8020rei.com, right?
Exactly. Yes.
And what is your ideal client? Is that a seasoned investor, right?
Perfect. Yeah. We like to work, like I said before, we're professional real estate investors. We like to think that we are the gasoline that you put on your existing fire, right? That you have a team, that you can execute on the strategies that we're going to recommend you to, right? Because the data is important, don't get me wrong, but how you use it is equally important, right? So if you don't have a team to do the calls we're recommending or to send a decent, at least a little bit of direct mail, our data will work, but it's not going to work as good as it should. And we're all about adding value and maximizing your return of investment. We want to work with people that are aligned with that. And typically, is an investor who's been 2 or 3 years in the business or doing at least 50 deals a year. We work with some of the highest volume investors in the country to help them understand their market, to help them create a good buy box and really create a marketing strategy for the outbound. Because a lot of investors would do just the spray and pray, right? Pull a list, target everybody, and just hope for the best. It works. It used to work way better years ago. The more and more the market is evolving, the data is becoming more important, and having a strategy is becoming very important.
Yeah, that makes sense. I see that on our side too. They have to have the team to be able to actually close the deals.
100%. I mean, you and I, we talked about this, right? Like, you can get good leads to any investor, right? But if what they do with the leads is also super important, right? I'm talking about what you do with the prospects, how you execute on your marketing. But once the lead comes in, if you don't have the structure either, you're not going to convert. So as long as you focus on your sales and your sales processes, having a strong follow up, right? When we were doing texting for the other real estate investors, what we learned is there's no, it's a not yet, right? Understanding that and putting in your mindset that when you talk to somebody, they're not interested, but you have a system to consistently market to them, because at that point they become a prospect again. They're not no longer a lead, they're a prospect. You know they're the owner. It's a better prospect, but you know you have the owner. But if they told they're not interested, it's just not yet, especially if you have the type of data that we can give you, because we can tell you, hey, something is going on, and we can create different strategies to even the follow-up approach it differently. If somebody has only high equity and they call you and say, yeah, you know what, I'm not ready yet, I'm not done. You don't need to spend a lot of time. It's a different cadence. If somebody is on foreclosure, they call you or you call them and they say, F off, I'm not selling my house, I have it all figured out. It's a completely different game that you should follow with them. That person is probably in denial. You just need to adjust and try to approach them differently until you get them at the right time, right? So it's a way more aggressive campaign or strategy that you should build. So understanding your strategies around it, and for you too, right? Based on the conversation, somebody submits a Facebook form, a PPC, whatever it is that they're coming from digital, they will give you some information there. So if they give you significant information in your CRM, make sure that you target them differently, even if they said no.
Yeah, and that's true too, because if they're reaching out and they want to sell their house,
There's something there.
they want to sell, they're just not ready yet.
But there's something there.
Right.
But sometimes they're just fishing around. It happens, right? But understanding where they're coming from, why they're reaching out to you from your perspective, right? And you probably have some questions about what's your motivation to sell. If you could just take it separated in two tiers, the guys who have something going on and the ones that don't have anything visible, at least create a strategy for two tiers of leads that are coming into your CRM every day. It's going to make a difference. Money's in the follow-up, right? This is not me. Somebody ran this statistics. They have a really respectful business that help with lead management stuff. They were sharing that 75% of the deals come from a follow-up.
Makes sense.
So having a good strategy for marketing and for follow-ups is extremely important.
Yeah. One last question before we go.
Absolutely, man.
What's your number one tip you can give real estate investors?
Oof, that's a tough one, man. Focus on sales. I would say focus on sales. Figure out what your genius, right? Like my unique talent for me was data and marketing and understanding those things. So I focused on that, and we lost focus on sales in my operation. Actually, when Gary came up and told us, hey, open this data solution for real estate investors as a business, he told us, you guys are not good operators. You need to figure that out, right? And it was true, because we were focusing on data and marketing. Don't focus on sales. I think that's the most important tip that any real estate investor on any stage is, as long as you have your sales team and your sales process, the follow-ups, being able to accurately work the leads, like you and I talked about, any sort of leads, it doesn't matter where they're coming from, that is the most important thing that you can do.
Yep, solid advice. Hey, well, thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate it.
No, thank you, man. I really enjoyed. Hope we add some value, and talk to you soon, man.
Yeah, sure thing. And hey, thanks everyone for listening. Until next time, get out there, crush it, and close some deals.